Here is a bonus episode available only for Patreon members of Cinema Recall. Go to patreon.com/Cinema Recall Pod for the full version. And now here is your host, the Vern.
Hello, and welcome to this very special bonus episode of Cinema Recall. I am the Vern. Thank you very much for joining me, for listening, or watching, or doing both. It doesn't matter. I appreciate you. I love you very much. I am here with a special guest. I was on his podcast not too long ago talking about Lupin the Third. I think it was season 5 or 4. I've actually covered other Lupin features with this gentleman. I have Robbie Sherman from the podcast Conversations with Robbie Sherman. Hello, Robbie. Welcome to Sim Recall.
Hey, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you, Vern.
Well, it's good to talk to you too. We spent a good portion of your podcast covering Lupin the Third, and that was such a fun time covering the first 5 episodes of the 5th season. Very cool stuff. Um, I know you've been on our podcast before. We had you on when we talked about the film After Hours from Martin Scorsese, and that was a fun conversation. But since you haven't been here in a little while there, Robbie, please tell our listeners everything about your podcast.
I run conversations with Robbie Sherman, the only podcast out of Salem, Indiana that matters. Let me tell you, I'm going to be covering some great stuff coming up. Batman Cape Crusader. We're going to be doing a pregame show with Mike Alberton of Games My Mom Found on Pretty Poison. Going to be putting that out Monday. That's going to be a good time. I've been meaning to get out for a while. I'm kind of behind on releases, but that's also because I'm like doing so many things at once because I'm developing some animation as well to go with the Lupin Fun. Just a little
Oh,
bit of a commercial, but something to show I'm putting a little effort into my 4-year anniversary events that are going on. This is the 4th year of the podcast. I don't know how the hell I've kept it together with some of the big fall like some of the big technological issues I've had among other things, but I appreciate everyone who's here. I run this thing solely by myself. This is my love letter to all the animation, all the movies, anything in pop culture I like, though. I really spend a lot of time covering animation mostly because I'm fascinated by it. I want to put I I want to put more animation together myself, but it's so time consuming and headache inducing sometimes, it's a big task. Talking about animation is good diversion. And we live in the content age. It doesn't hurt to have a little balance, a little range. The dissecting media is as essential for learning media as it is
yeah.
like doing the specific thing you're talking about.
And it's so cool that you mentioned that you do animation, and I'm totally intrigued by animation, but scared of it too. On our last episode, I was with Robert Giannis Jr. of Franchise Detours, and we were talking about the film Wait in Life, which is all just rotoscope animation with animators
Yeah.
drawn over real people, and how time consuming that is.
Oh my
And
word.
I imagine with the animation work that you're doing, it's very time consuming. Also, try to put together podcast episodes, edit them, promote them, rate them. I mean, it's plus you work and everything too. It's just a
Oh
very
yeah.
my hats off to you, buddy, because that is like a lot of things to do, and I commend you very much for all the work that you've been doing. So,
I
yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, it's hard to feel like there's a lot of reward because sometimes these things like don't work out like I planned. And I've accepted a long time ago that I'm not like some weird savant that can just draw anything. But as soon as he puts something down, I spend a lot of time like creating geography. I spend a lot of time creating geometry. Please get around that. And I would really appreciate that.
Sure, yeah,
And
no,
yeah, I spend a lot of time creating geometry and things to really make characters feel 3D and lived in. I don't I worry a lot about the quality of animation going down over the past few years, which and I do not believe we have necessarily bad animation all the time in this day and age. In fact, I think the world is overrun with examples of amazing animation. Just sometimes in some of our bigger properties, when we're outsourcing and outsourcing and outsourcing the work to different studios, we get some weird issues. The new season of Invincible had a few weird issues. I'm enough of an animator to know when a walk side cycle is being repeated
Well,
in a
the
way
thing
that doesn't make sense, you know?
I also feel like too, there's no really like outlets for animators except for like YouTube and maybe other like streaming sites. I don't know if you remember there was a show in the '90s on MTV called Liquid Television,
Oh
which
God, I love liquid television. Like, don't I'm never gonna shut up about this now, but go ahead, please.
oh no, I just because I just there were so many different styles of animators that were featured on that, and I feel like that was a great way for other people to see all the different styles of animation than we have now. Like, now I feel like animation is meant for like commercials. It used to be for like music videos, but people don't really watch music videos all that much. So you really have to like market your stuff differently, or do stuff to make your stuff stand out, or be part of a franchise or an IP or something like that. So yeah, I just
Oh
kind
my
of miss.
God. Yeah, like music videos are like such a dead thing. Like no one gives a fuck about music videos. I never
True.
hear anyone being like, "Man, this is an awesome music video." Like no one just gives a shit. Like anyone can corral a bunch of girls and a bunch of cars together, and they know that that person is probably in debt. Like it doesn't matter any fucking more.
Fair enough.
Uh,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I
Well,
interrupted you. I shouldn't have done
no, no, you're good, man. No, we're just doing a free flow forward conversation. But this episode, I want to bring Robbie on here because we've been doing all these fun little bonus episodes where I have a different podcast host come on, and we have what I call a deserted island list. So, in a hypothetical situation,
that.
this is like desert island. You're not stuck there for real, but I like bringing guests on here to find out exactly what they would bring to a deserted island if they were to be stuck on one. And so I just have like a small little list here of just some things that I would, what would you bring to one? And so the first item I have is your favorite musician or a band. Like, what is a band or musician, just one, that you can listen to their music over and over again? You never get bored of it. You could just like listen to them.
I've been I've actually been pondering nothing but music, so I'm gonna feel like kind of flat when I get to TV or film. But there are some contenders. For some reason, the silver apples popped up in my head, but I don't think that's a thing that has enough range to be like a deserted island thing. Like maybe I pull that out every couple of years. I'm like, oh, this is good. It makes me feel good, and then I just forget about it. Um,
Well,
I would
well,
probably say like John Cale or
John.
just the Velvet Underground, like the Velvet Underground associated like stuff, like all the Lou Reed and John Cale solo albums with the Velvet Underground discography, like including the Velvet Underground stuff they released that was like unreleased demos. Like for the second recording, like there's a bunch of unreleased demos that have been released at this point in that box set. But yeah, I mean that stuff is just the pinnacle of like what becomes alternative rock, over the course of the next few decades. And it's so amazing, like judging it in context and like what it's doing compared to its peers. I'm a big Velvet Underground fan, but I actually think I might like John Cale like a little bit more on his own than I do the Velvet Underground. I mean, Vintage Violence and Paris 1919, they might be two of the most perfect rock and roll records ever made. Like they just have like these little like themes that go together, these little humane stories, just kind of kind of incredible stuff to take in. I think Paris 1919 is one of the great like savage attacks on aristocracy of the 20th century and like mocking the English like
Okay.
manner of the wealthy like and I love the music of it like it has an incredible just like an incredible sense of arrangement and like it's haunting and it occasionally gets into just like a bloody like bit of rock and roll with a song like Macbeth, which is that's just a barnstormer of a song.
You
Well,
know,
you know what? You want me to embarrass myself? I can do that a little bit.
oh, you're
Welcome home, Macbeth. It's been a long, long time. Everybody knows you're here. It's easy to see the care. And then that slide guitar comes in. And like that's just a perfect rock and roll song. Like
I'll
I
be
mean,
hon-
they're so.
I'll
I'm
be honest
sorry.
with you,
Go ahead.
buddy. I love that pick. I am not very familiar with the Velvet Underground. I know about Lou Reed because the band that I'm in, we are covering a Lou Reed song. We're covering Vicious.
Oh.
So I know,
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah,
Yes.
we're covering that one, and I know about like Nico because she did a song for Wes Anderson's The Royal
Okay.
Tenenbaums. So I know about those people, but I don't think I've ever really heard a Velvet Underground song before. Maybe I
Oh,
have, but
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
quite remember it.
you're a Wes
So
Anderson fan, so I know you've heard at least one or two Velvet Underground
I'm
songs
sure
because
like the
he has them in his movies. Like
I
Sunday Morning, you don't know that one?
maybe I
Like that's
do.
oh
I'm
man,
pretty
that's such a
sure
good song.
I know about the album that has the banana on it from Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
So I know about their images and I know I've heard the name before, but I don't think I ever sat down to listen to a full album of the Velvet
Uh,
Underground.
uh,
But I will. After your
yeah, do
recommendation,
it.
I'm curious to know more about the Silver Apples as well.
Oh,
'Cause you-
yeah, they okay. I got a great pitch for them for anybody who likes electronic music. They're sort of the first recognized electronic rock and roll band, in that there are two dudes, one's a drummer, and the other is a guy that handles all these oscillators and different little like noise making, like early electronic noise makers that he handles by attaching like pads and stuff to his shoulders and different ligaments, and he'll like, move his body slightly to create like different little sounds and tones that pop up. I mean, it's kind of like a weird limited sound, and they do a lot of like drony stuff, but it's it's one of the most fascinating of the early like alternative rock bands that pops up in the mid to late 60s. They're not
all right.
together very long. They only have a couple of albums. Well, okay, they have a couple of albums, and then there's like a reunion album, which I think most people consider a little more of the same. Maybe they're dipping into some fresher electronic elements by that point, but yeah, fascinating band. I mean, Jimi Hendrix got to see these guys play in Central Park. They were able
Oh.
to get like these public gigs in Central Park. And there's some famous corroboration about like Hendrix knowing about them and like seeing them in Central
Oh, I didn't
Park.
know that they were like early electronica, like
I mean,
before even Kraftwerk or something like that, before Kraftwerk even.
yeah, I mean, like if you listen to Kraftwerk, then you'll hear the influence. Even if Kraftwerk didn't know what the Silver Apples was, because the Silver Apples was such a niche band. Like I don't think they kind of got their due place in history for a couple of decades before people started realizing like how weird and cool this band was in its time. Just a unique little beast. I got a few more things that I think are a little more fun though, that I think give me some more range to play with on my desert island. Jefferson Airplane. Are you a Jefferson Airplane fan at all?
I've heard them before. I wait to just take it just like one artist for the
Yeah.
desert island, but I promise you, Robbie, I'll have you back on again to like
Yeah, it's
cover
okay.
other artists right there.
Yeah.
But just for the time being,
I
we
think
just say
Velvet
the Velvet
Underground is
Underground.
good. Yeah,
Okay.
and all their little family of records associated with them. Nico
Oh,
does present like an odd thing to me because she has like some like very brash, un unsavory compliment, unsavory like words about some things that you can look at that are not flattering. But I do like her music. Like I won't say I don't like her music.
sure. I love that, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so the next item I have for you to bring onto your hypothetical desert island is your favorite author or book series. Is there like a favorite author you would bring all their books, or one
Uh,
big book series that you would have bring along?
I'm mostly reading comics anymore, so I'm wondering like what the best thing to be like that. Maybe I don't know, maybe a Jack Kirby like collection of stuff. Jack Kirby, the king of comics. You know,
Oh, that'd be
that's something
great.
that's something that's not hard to like.
Oh,
I don't know
definitely.
how extensive somebody like Doreen Colleen, I think that's how you pronounce her name is, but she's somebody I really admire as far as a comic book artist. She's had a long career doing different things. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
love that.
maybe.
I no, that's a great idea about the whole comic book artist right there. I never thought about just doing a whole series of graphic novels, comic books based on just one artist's interpretation. Because yeah, you could have like months and months and even like years of different stories and not be bored at once.
Oh, I consider artists writers in their own ways because when an artist has to pose like dialogue and stuff, they're creating a sense of acting that is in its own way not exactly written on the page. You know, like when you're creating layout, you're engaging in creating acting that is it is writing on a certain level using shapes, and I think they should be given credit, for imbuing emotions into things.
Oh, 100%. It's like when like Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee and I think like Rob Liefeld when they
Oh yeah.
left Marvel to form
The
Image
image story,
Studios.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Image. And I remember buying copies of like Wildcats and Spawn, and I forgot who created the Mats, who did that one.
Ah man,
Um,
I can never remember that guy's name, but that's an incredible comic series, and it's
oh,
got a great MTV adaptation.
Oh, great one
Amazing
right
stuff.
there. And I just remember all those like artists they were not getting the respect they were getting over at the big studio with Marvel,
Yeah.
and so they created their own like label. But yeah, the old school of like Jack Kirby, and I don't know the names of any other animators or illustrators for comic books, but that's I love that pick of Jack Kirby. That's great. I never would have thought about doing actually,
I I
artist.
mean, he may be the most important comic artist, like
Oh,
just
sure.
worldwide. Like, and I'm not like there are so many people that in certain ways have techniques that are better than him and better writing than him. But I just think a whole generation of American and then that reached out internationally into what people thought about superhero comics and what it reflected into the style of American comics abroad. Like there's so few people that have had the influence on comics that Jack Kirby have had. Um, I I also want to say Will Eisner. Like, can I make that
Oh,
Will Eisner? Like, I think he might be more important than Jack Kirby. I mean, he was the first one of the first people that really made people go like, "Wow, comics are an art form, and they can slap harder than any other form of literature in a certain way." Like,
is he the one that that drew all the like Donald Duck and like Mickey Mouse, those early Disney comic books?
uh, my friend, if you're thinking of the Donald Duck artist, you might be thinking of Carl Barks, which
Maybe I am. Okay.
excellent, amazing guy. But Will Eisner is the namesake of the Will Eisner Award and like the prestigious comic book award that you get when you're an industry like vet, at the highest level. And the reason he got that is because number one, he created the spirit. and the Spirit is a very like massively
Oh,
influential comic property, mired in a lot of uncomfortable stuff. And I must admit, maybe I feel kind of bad about picking that because it reflects a certain, like, there's a lot of like stereotypes and stuff going on in the Spirit. But I also would say that those comics, like, shaped the world of comics so much. Like, the people who came after them just looked at the Spirit as a holy grail of its generation that I think is still worth digging in and getting the good out of it. And the newer Spirit comics they did, like, even without Will Eisner, and they started these back up around the time that the movie came out, which I was very, very frustrated by the movie because when I found out there was a movie coming out about this, I went out, got online, and figured out how to read a whole bunch of Spirit issues that I would normally never be able to get a hold of. I think I was like 14 or 15. Like,
sure.
I got invested in this thing. I actually thought, the Spirit is kind of cool. Like, he's just a like real like he's a supernatural character who's also a gumshoe character,
See,
and he doesn't represent like a typical superhero character as we know, but he also does represent an evolution into the broader ideal of what a superhero represents in the modern day.
yeah, I wasn't sure. Wasn't he also like a radio show about the spirits, and they do like some sort of like 1930s
Oh yeah,
radio
yeah,
adaptation
the
as
Spirit
well?
was a sensation. He had
Yeah,
radio shows. I think they might have even had serials, maybe. I haven't looked into that, but there's a possibility. He's
that could
that old
be.
of a character.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, well, that's that. Those are great picks right there. For the authors and artists, I like the artist pick. That was really cool. So Robbie, for your fourth item, what is your favorite food to bring to an island here? And I'm talking mainly about a restaurant, like your favorite restaurant.
Oh
If you
God.
know famous chefs, you can have a famous chef on there. But if
Oh
you can have like
jeez.
one establishment you could eat at for a long time, what would that be?
I gotta tell you, this is the question I was dreading the most because I just eat like the barest diet, I just eat like whatever is the nearest fast food a lot of the time. Like I just
Okay,
don't
well,
I
what's your
don't
favorite
get
fast
to
food?
have
Do you like one fast food
I
that you
don't
would
even
have more
like
than
fast
other?
food. Like I don't even like fast food from having to work in fast food. So I never
Okay,
think like something's my favorite. Like I don't
or
know, maybe uh yeah, I'm trying to think of just something that would
money
even
be
make me
damned this
happy.
one too. Doesn't matter what the cost is.
Money
You
be
have this one
damned.
restaurant over and over again. You don't have to
Okay.
pay for any of the food. You don't have to pay for any of the food.
Maybe this is just David Lynch influencing me, but I'd kind of like to go to a Frisch's Big Boy.
Oh,
I
hell
don't
yeah.
I don't know why this is popping in my head. Maybe this is
No.
just because David Lynch was into him, but I've only been there like twice, and I just have no idea like what it's about. Like I don't remember it at all. I I kind of like Sonic, but I feel like their quality like may not be the same as it was at one time. Well, you have to drive like half an hour to get to fucking Sonic where I live.
Oh, that's bad. Big Boy is good because there are so many different options you can have for food.
Oh,
They have many different breakfast items, many
hell
different
yeah.
lunch items, and you'll never be bored. You can have like French toast, or you can have like an omelet, and then you can have like
Oh,
a
okay.
BLT or a
Okay.
burger, a salad, different types of shakes.
All
I
right.
mean, you would never have the same meal twice ever, and
You
I would
know
love
what?
that.
I like that. That's rock and roll. I like that. Fuck
Big
yeah.
boy, the big boy is great. I don't know exactly where they have the big boy anymore, but I remember growing up in small town Winona where I grew up in. Yeah, there was a big boy, within about 20 minutes of each other, and we had the guy that held the burgers up, and oh, the food was so good.
Oh,
Oh, it was
okay.
incredible. I love that. Uh, for your next item, I want you to pick your favorite director to watch all of their movies, and you can even pick a favorite actor too. If you can't think of a director, if there's
Oh,
an
okay.
actor you like
Okay.
more, and you can watch
All
all
right.
of their movies, who would that
Oh,
be?
okay. Favorite director. Um, Hayao Miyazaki almost feels too easy. Like
Good
I
stuff.
even, yeah, I like him, good stuff, but I do kind of think sometimes his movies fizzle out in a way that I'm not satisfied by. I've been hearing some complaints about The Boy and the Heron since that came out, and I need to watch that. It's pretty impressive. An 85-year-old man made such an
Yeah,
incredible movie. Yeah,
it's good. It's just not
yeah,
as
I'm sure
strong
it
as his
is.
other films are, but yeah, it's really strong. You can even
Yeah.
say all the Studio Ghibli stuff too, because that's not just Miyazaki. There's a whole bunch of other films that are in the Studio Ghibli universe.
Yeah, if this was, I don't know, maybe if this was like 3 years ago or something, I would have said Ralph Bakshi, but that guy is just a mess of a human being. I can't, I don't, I only recommend him on a historical level because I think his first three movies matter to the history of animation
Oh
in
sure.
lots of ways, good and
Oh,
bad. But
you,
yeah, I just,
you are
I
not
can't
bringing
rec
you're not bringing this guy with you to the island. You're just watching his movies. All right,
Yeah, I
so
mean, yeah, like, look,
he's
I
not
don't
going to
need to
be
be,
around. You're just saying,
I
"Hey, I'm
don't.
going to watch Val Bakshi movies." I hate the
I
guy,
don't need to
but I
be
watch his
trapped with
movies.
that. Look, I don't need to be trapped with that angry drug addict on the
Okay,
fucking
no,
island
hell
for my
no,
whole life.
no.
Maybe if I just happened to have a copy of Heavy Traffic, hell yeah, I'm gonna put that in when I run out of things. But yeah, no, that guy has to stay, a little bit of ways from me. Just
Oh,
um,
it's
okay,
like it's like him and Hunter S. Thompson. I love Hunter S. Thompson books and his ratings, but I'm going nowhere near that guy.
He's he's a piece of shit, like
you
just a fucking asshole who was a
know?
brilliant writer, like
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
full-on monster, like at times, and when I was growing up, I fell for it too. I loved his writing. I thought he was
Yeah,
just an amazing writer, but
sure,
he really took advantage of people in ways that are just inexcusable for a
sure.
professional of any kind, like a human being of any kind. It's fucking frustrating. But hey, I got a lot of heroes that have let me down, and they're only human beings the same as I. So that's the only way I can actually cope with such a thing. Maybe, okay, I think I have an interesting thing now,
Okay.
like something that is actually interesting. Osamu Tezuka, the creator of Astro Boy, he
Oh,
has a film, and I want to include his TV work in here just because it would be fascinating to pick up on it, and you could find a lot of humor in some of the limited animation of Astro Boy and junk if you're on your desert island. But he has some extremely high quality full frame anime movies that he either helped direct or are based off his properties, and he helped fund. He had that Mushi Productions, which was what originally started Astro Boy, if memory is serving, but it ended up developing the trilogy of adult-oriented feature-length anime films that he produced that started with the Thousand and One Nights uh, adaptation. It's a very loose, weird adaptation. It's mostly a series of vignettes based around the Latin origin tale, A Thousand and One Arabian Nights. And there's just some wild stuff happening. I mean, they spent a year just kind of screwing around, getting nothing done with these ambitious ideas, and then they finished it up within a couple of months. And I mean, there's some rotoscoping they do in it that's just so fluid and crazy and
I didn't know
almost
about that.
scary. Oh my God, you gotta watch this thing. This thing was a huge hit, and
I, I
it enabled him to go into a power frenzy on his next film. A I don't know. Okay, this movie is extremely weird to explain. It's called Cleopatra, and it's a sci-fi epic where four astronauts go back in time to stop Cleopatra from dying or something like that in order to save the future that is currently on the brink of being destroyed by some kind of event. And they have traced the origin of how this event will eventually play out in history to the time of Cleopatra, and these four astronauts end up going back in time and taking on the guise of different people and animals in
What?
Cleopatra's time. It's so
Oh,
wild and insane. Like you could spend hours like studying this movie for its inanity and weirdness, and it's kind of a treasure on its own for that. They tried to bring it over to America and treat it like pornography, but there's really not like a lot of sex scenes. It's just like a lot of like intense nudity sometimes, some like cartoonish like use of nudity and slapstick. I mean,
oh,
it's very it's very much a weird like misogynist fantasy, but in the history of anime and like what it represents, it's kind of a unique beast that's would be fascinating to study. And the third one of those is Belladonna of Sadness, a
I've seen
film.
that.
Oh man, a film that is
I
barely
know I've seen
animated.
parts. I know that I don't think I ever finished it, but I know about that one. Yes, 'cause I remember that being played on like Criterion Channel one time, and I think I did watch it, but then I had to leave. So are you saying that the guy who created Astro Boy, his animation led to Belladonna of Sadness?
Oh man, his manga and like, because Mushi Productions was like a huge production thing for him, and he used it to get like his first two animation series off the ground. If my
Sure.
memory is serving, if anybody out there is finds out I'm wrong, I'm sorry I let you down. I'm a
No,
very work straddled like sad person, so I'm doing the best I can here,
no,
people.
you're
But
fine.
anyways,
You know
anyways,
more than
that's
me,
a
all right. You know way more than me, Robbie. So you're
yeah,
good.
I'm doing the best I can to give you verifiable information. Anyways, Tetsuka parlayed the success into creating that first 1001 Nights anime film, feature length film. And he was doing manga the whole time during this. So he wasn't even directly involved in every part of it, though he had like written the script and come up with like staging things, but yeah, it's a work of art when you watch it and you consider how little time they actually had to finish it and make it a edited movie that they had to put out to the masses, and its success led into that Cleopatra film. And Belladonna represents the bridge absolutely cracking, though. Like, Belladonna represents the greatest failure of all those. Cleopatra was technically a failure. They only made their money back by selling the rights overseas, if memory serves. And
Yeah,
they ended up financing Belladonna, and that's why it has so little animation because it's a hell of a lot easier to make elaborate paintings than it is to animate people with like fuller frame animation. Which
but that
Cleopatra, Cleopatra is just a sight for like just unique eyes. Like you'll never see a film that looks like it. Can I
I
talk
love
about
the
one
whole
more film?
notion. I love that the whole notion of like having like just an actual like still artwork where it feels more like you're watching a painting more than just something being animated, like a pop art, you know,
Yes.
centerpiece right there, which I love very much.
I mean,
Yeah,
for those in your audience who enjoy recreational activities and such, I'm sure it's something you can put on and have background like at your party, and it'll be a cool thing that people can look back on. Yeah, I
oh,
mean, it's just a
100%.
beautiful little thing. It has some very intense subject matter, but there are other things that express that subject matter to such a like more extreme degree. It kind of feels tame to a lot of people in this day and age, I would say, but it's still a unique little beast. I guess okay, Osamu Tezuka has like a lot of heavy themes in everything he does.
Sure.
A lot of
Oh,
people consider him the Japanese Disney, but I actually think he's a much more complex and innovative person than Disney himself. Like
oh,
Disney was innovative because he was like a taskmaster. He was brilliant about directing things, but he had people propping him up in the way like somebody like Tezuka, who actually drew his own manga and would often direct his own films at the same time while he was carrying weekly series. Like Walt Disney doesn't compare to Osamu Tezuka, in my opinion.
That's fair. Well, I'm curious to check out more of his stuff later on. There, that is a
Yeah.
great pick. I love that pick of, and I'm not gonna try to pronounce the name because I know I would get it wrong. But please send me, links to his stuff later on so I can,
Okay.
look the stuff up later because I'm very intrigued to, watch his stuff right there. That sounds cool. For the
I got
fifth
one
and
thing.
oh, great.
I know you want to end this, so I'll make this brief.
No, you're
I
good,
got
man.
one thing that'll be fascinating for you. It's
Okay.
called Bremen 4, and it's a like TV special movie they made. And what I found was supposedly a unfinished work print that they put out on the air, and then it kind of became lost. And after this, whenever they released it on video, they finished up large portions of it and actually put like finished animation in parts of it. So this
Oh,
edit that aired on TV with unfinished animation and like little spots of like weird cutting and stuff, yeah, it has now been found by a company that they're pretty sure like they looked around and they can't really find anything like it, and they compared it to the original, and this was the fascinating little discovery that I came across. I love the
that's so
world of
cool.
entertainment, and I love discovering curios like that. People,
Yeah, like little like lost
yeah,
treasures and everything. That is
yeah,
pretty
just
cool. And I love so much all the other different features you talked about this guy and how it was like the genres change. I love this very much. For our last and final thing on this deserted island, I want you to pick your favorite TV show, and if you can't find a favorite TV show, pick your favorite streaming network. Like,
okay. I okay. God, it's so easy to say The Simpsons.
oh,
Like,
of course,
I mean, this, I mean, The
yes.
Simpsons have been like with me since I was probably in the cradle because my dad loved The Simpsons when I was growing up. It
Oh,
was one of those
sure.
shows. I mean, it was such a strong bond between me and my father that if I was in trouble or something, and I was grounded from watching TV or whatever have you, I could still watch The Simpsons. Like it
Oh,
was
that's
cruel
great.
to take The Simpsons away from me, but at the same time, it just I don't know, like it's not held up as my favorite show in certain ways. Like
Well,
I
they've been
think,
on for so long that I feel like the
yeah, I
first like
know,
5 seasons could like last you for a couple
yeah.
of months too, you know? Because
I
yeah, those
mean, yeah, it's frustrating.
it is because
Yeah,
they were so like I think the first 5 seasons were probably the best. I picked The Simpsons as being good up until the movie, and then after that, it kind of went downhill for
uh,
me.
well, see, I think like they have like such a factory approach that I think they're actually intermittently good in a way that is like frustrating. But they are still good a lot of the time and capable of being very good. But the
Yeah.
factory approach of it all actually like erases all the harsh edges and the corners, like they're much more of a product now. They're not like the work of a bunch of angry lib Harvard like guys.
Yeah, actually, they had like Conan O'Brien
Now
write
they're
for
the
them.
product of a bunch of old, like sad Harvard lib guys.
Yeah, like it felt more, especially at the start of the season. Felt because they started out as being shorts on the Tracy Ullman show, and those became very
Yeah.
popular. And then when I remember when they first made a Christmas special, but the Simpsons are gonna have their own Christmas special, and then how it developed. In fact, I'm going back and rewatching some of the early seasons of the
Hell
show.
yeah.
I just watched the one where Bart sees a daredevil and he gets so influenced by him that he's gonna try to jump Springfield Gorge, but then
Ah.
Homer decides to jump it himself, and he's like, I'm gonna make it," and he doesn't, and yeah, just some of those early ones are just really good.
Oh my word, the first like 10 seasons are just so solid. Even on the like latter end of that 10 season arc, you're still getting home runs here and there, and you're just getting like really funny stuff. I uh
Oh,
I got another show that I think like I might respect a little more in a lot of ways that I think
Sure.
would be more interesting to have on a desert island. Aeon Flux.
Oh,
I mean, every little episode is just like this unique animated little puzzle. Like everything like your character is doing, like you don't get anticipation stuff with it. Like it throws you into situations and like you're never quite sure where it's going to go. And the animation of it is just so detailed and weird and striking. I mean, it's a never-ending marvel. Like that movie was such a disappointment because
oh, yes. Oh,
you
totally a
cannot
disappointment.
make Aeon Flux better with Charlize Theron. And look, okay, I love Charlize Theron. I
Yep,
mean,
I do too.
I'm not looking down on Charlize Theron as
No,
Aeon Flux necessarily, but no one can do the job that Peter Chung can do with
100%.
animation. Like, okay, this is my whole problem with Lilo and Stitch. You know, I got my friends with kids coming up to me being like, "Hey, you gonna go see Lilo and Stitch?" I'm like, "No." I don't want to watch this thing where they took out all the drag, where they made Pete Bleakley this like ultra realistic, gross thing. I'm like, they are just completely hollowing over Chris Sanders' amazingly expressive work as a director. Like, you, you
Oh,
don't even know like what an imprint Lilo and Stitch had on me as a kid because I think when I saw that, like as a kid, I had finally realized, like, oh, Disney can do like really extremely funny Looney Tunes type stuff with its like fluid animation, and
and,
it can have a beautiful story about like indigenous like people working in a
yeah.
system that is against them,
Well,
and it
and then
can like have a beautiful like story about sisterhood, which I don't ever get to participate in because I don't have a sister. So that's something that looks like incredible to me on reflection. I bonded with this movie so much, like that's a little bit of
and
empathy showing.
another thing too, I mean, they were doing hand drawn animation in the 2000s when they were still making like Toy Story and A Bug's Life, all these computer generated Pixar stuff, and they're still able to make really good hand drawn animated films because they made this and The Emperor's New Groove as well in the 2000s
Oh,
area. And I miss that area of Disney very much.
yeah.
And I agree with you. This new CGI version looks off, and I'm sad to say it's from the director of one of my other favorite movies, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. That
Wow,
same
really?
that
What?
same the same director of that movie is the director of the new Lilo and Stitch. So I'm
That's
intrigued to
absolutely
watch
wild.
it. I'm intrigued to watch it just for that element of it. But that seems to be the case whenever there's a director who makes a good independent feature. He gets snatched up by a studio to direct an IP feature. And I worry if that happens, then he's going to start to do that much more because that's where the money comes in.
And
And
I will, I have to talk about like the main thematic crutch of Aeon Flux and what makes it an endlessly interesting
oh,
character,
yes,
especially in the dystopian times we live in. Because the
yes,
whole point of Aeon Flux is that she is not a hero. She is a failing like hero. She is a hero who is incapable of like achieving her goals a lot of times, despite her like incredible abilities. And the whole point of it is to be a subversion of how animated heroes function. You know, they always get the girl or what have you. They always end up like defeating the odds despite impossible circumstances and what have you. And Aeon Flux is a very particular nihilistic look at the functions of television and the functions of children's programming, essentially. I think it has a little bit of commentary on a certain level. You know, I think the animation itself is supposed to be a little bit of a commentary in a way on how like cartoons dress up heroes and how this thing is like the opposite of a cartoon hero.
well, sure, and also, I like the fact on like Aeon Flux is when you watch the old shorts that are part of Liquid Television and whatnot, there was no
Yeah.
dialogue. It was just watching the actions, and you can put together the storyline without needing any words. And I appreciate that very much. And when they finally did bring voice actors in to do storylines, I thought they were
Yeah.
all very good. They had all very kind of complex storylines. They were meant for that, maturing MTV
Yeah.
crowd when that
I
came out.
mean,
I
the
got the
guy
box
who
set. It's so good.
the guy who made Ed, Ed and Eddie kind of got a little bit of his jump start on that because he created the Brothers Grunt for MTV, and that had like a really short-lived like run. Like they just made the episodes and it just fell apart. Like no one cared about it at all. But it has some like just wild, striking, like vibrant but ugly animation. And you can totally see how it morphs into the like ugly but kid-friendly visage of Ed, Ed and Eddie. Which okay, Ed, Ed, and Eddie, I actually might take as well, but this will be the last thing I have to say about this. I know you want to cut this down. But Ed, Ed, and Eddie is the last production by Cartoon Network to be hand animated with the cell approach. It was such
Oh,
a success
I
that they
didn't.
allowed it to go past their expiration date for cell animating with all their studios, and they kept it going with the cell animation up until the last season. So that's like 4 seasons of that show, like a perfect, just like wild, weird cell animation. I didn't realize what a gift that was until recently. I didn't realize what a little jewel that was, and now I appreciate Ed and Eddie in ways that it
Yeah,
was just such a weird show as a kid. I couldn't appreciate it, but now I'm adult and I'm just like, this thing was brilliant. Like this thing
that's
was just a
cool.
brilliant little cartoon.
I never thought about that either. That being the first last like cell drawn animated
The
show.
like they all their other shows went to digital means, and then this show was like working out of Canada, I think, and it was making so much money they talked Cartoon Network into keeping it that way. And I think being away from actual Cartoon Network studios helped it keep, you know, out
Yeah,
away from the digital revolution. Like the guy who created Ed and Eddie, he's a real old school punk type guy, and he loves the idea of hand drawn animation. Yeah, I'm sure he's a
yeah.
little too outspoken for this era of Cartoon Network, but God bless him and the work he did.
I 100% with that. That is cool. Well, that's gonna kind of wrap up our Desert Island section of the show. And before we do close out here, Robbie, first of all, thank you so much again for being on here with us. That was a really fun conversation. I learned a lot about other animators and musicians I should check out for sure, and artists of comic books. Um, Please, before we do go, tell our listeners what's been going on with you, any new shows you got coming up there. This will be released the second week of probably July. So if you know of any
Okay,
episodes that you have coming up,
perfect. Yeah, I
and
really
also
appreciate being on here.
tell us where we
Go
can
ahead,
find you
please.
too. Like, tell us all your social media handles and everything too.
You can find me on Blue Sky as Combos with Robbie Sherman. I think that's how you put it in there. And that's where a lot of the news and the other like stuff I post about, a lot of political posting I put up there in case you're a dedicated lefty wanting to get out this terrible administration that's destroying our economy. And
100%.
you can also find me on Discord. Reach out to me about that if you can't figure out how to get a hold of me on there. I'm happy to meet you on there. I love Discord. It's a great little service for it's a lot better than the other social media accounts. It feels more cozy. Like it doesn't feel like you're putting yourself necessarily up on a pedestal in a certain way with your posts.
Sure.
And
100%.
we got a bunch of good episodes coming out. The episodes we recorded on part five will be coming out over the summer. I'm sure one or two of those will be out by the time you get this, Vern. We're
Cool.
going to be covering the Cape Crusader, like I mentioned earlier, the
Nice.
Amazon Batman series, which is an excellent series. I get to cover that with Catwoman for, and that's like a completion of a cycle we started with Catwoman Hunted. the Catwoman solo movie they made for direct-to-video that was directed by a Lupin the Third director.
Really?
So
Oh,
yeah, that
so
ties
cool.
in with my other Lupin stuff too. So I'm so happy I get to have
Oh,
all these little dots connecting. I got an episode out with my friend Lisa coming up soon, and that'll be over the film Shinbone Alley, a weird little animated gem that no one seems to talk about or like that much. But I had a good time, and we both seem to have a generally good word to say about it, for a creepy cartoon from like 1970.
I
It has
love
a
it.
great behind the scenes documentary everyone can go check out too. So I'll be
Okay.
setting up
Well,
links for that. Yeah,
I will
it's just
put.
a big and
Yep.
I got to mention one more thing though. I'm going to be working with Jeff Matthews of the Fox Kids Club. He does
Oh,
video essays on YouTube, and
oh yeah.
he's had some like incredible video essays. He's going to be putting some stuff up. He runs a Patreon, and we're going to be doing a big live chat about Batman the Animated Series over the Harvey Dent two-parter where he becomes Two-Face, and that's going to be an excellent fun time. He's
That would
going to
be
be
a
coming
great
on my
one.
show and covering the Lupin special, Missed by a Dollar, and we're going to be covering a big film on his pot. He doesn't. It isn't technically a podcast; it's a video essay thing. But we're going to be covering Lupin the Third, the first, the giant CGI animated movie they made a few years back. That is awesome, and it's a pretty family friendly film, but it still has the Lupin charm, and it doesn't get rid of like what makes those characters interesting and appealing and cartoony and fun.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
I have a
intrigued to
We
watch that
got
one
this
because I've
summer.
always seen the animated ones, but that sounds cool with the whole Lupin computer feels. Damn, dude, you are busy. You are just on a whole bunch of different like platforms and shows, and I love it. And I promise I'll post links to your sites and shows everything that you do. Please go subscribe and listen, watch the stuff, check out his other animation. As for Cinema Recall, I don't know exactly what's going to be coming out for our show. I know I'm going to be probably posting our time over at Convergence and doing all the other like panels and podcast episodes. We recorded it at Convergence. That will be coming out very soon on our show. But please subscribe to us on YouTube and all your other podcast platforms that you can. You follow us on the social medias. We're usually cinema underscore recall on the Twitter sphere and on Instagram and other places. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Threads. Follow us there, cinemarecall.net. If you want to get episodes early, please subscribe to our Patreon page, patreon.com/cinema recall pod. That's when you'll get access to episodes early before anywhere else. And we thank you very much to all of our wonderful Patreon members for doing so. Again, big shout out here, and I got to play this right now because I'm giving you a little applause here.
Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa. Yes. Thank you, Robbie, so much, and thank you very much for checking out Cinema Recall. And hope you all have an amazing week. And I was gonna have you sing out our show because you did such a good job of singing Velvet Underground there, buddy. But I'm not gonna make you. I'm not gonna put you on the web pedestal and have you sing stuff for us again. But again, thank you all for watching, and we'll talk with you soon. Yay!